All right, let's talk Creature Commandos and let's talk the beginning of the DCU. This is the official start of James Gunn's new cinematic universe, or is it? Or is it? We'll talk about that as we get into Creature Commandos. But guys, this is going to be a full spoiler discussion for episodes 1 and 2 of Creature Commandos, the first project in the DCU. Kind of. Again, we'll talk about it. But anyways, this is going to be full spoiler discussion of episodes 1 and 2 of Creature Commandos. If you have not seen the first 2 episodes, then just make sure to save this podcast, save this segment, save this video for later, and come back once you have. And without further ado, let's get into it. So guys, this is it. This is the DCU, right? I mean, this is going to be the first, when they have the Wikipedia page up and when they talk about the first project in the DCU, it's going to be Creature Commandos. Then again, and I'm not here to, I'm not going to jump the gun too much, but then again, it seems like the Suicide Squad is pretty much canon in the DCU, and so is Peacemaker, so really, I would say the Suicide Squad is the first project in the DCU, kind of. I mean, here's the thing, right? We did a segment about this a couple weeks ago, where we talked about James Gunn's clarifying comments on what canon is in the DCU, and he said basically, as long as it's referenced in the DCU and it happened in the DCEU, it just has to be referenced in the DCU for it to be canon. Okay, that's fine. You can have Amanda Waller say here or there, oh, remember that one mission about the starfish? And it's like, okay, that's sure, it's canon. But, I mean, we'll talk about this more when we do our deep dives into episodes 1 and 2. But, I mean, the first episode really starts out and it's like basically an exact continuation of the DCEU. It's literally, look, at this point in time, right? If you told me this show took place in the DCEU, I would have believed you. I don't know what else to say. And maybe that's intentional on James Gunn's part, but it really does not feel like a reboot at all. I mean, this is basically taking place in the same continuity as the DCEU. Now, obviously, we'll see, with Superman coming up, but also then you have Peacemaker Season 2 coming up. So, I mean, yes, this is the first project in the DCU, but does it really feel like it? No, not really, but we'll talk about that later. So, anyways, like I'd been saying before, Creature Commandos as a project, I'm excited for the DCU to start. I'm excited for a new beginning. I'm excited for new things, the new Superman, all that good stuff. The Creature Commandos show, though, I was not super excited about. And as the trailers came out, I made a couple videos on those 2 trailers. And what I said was this. I said, look, I know James Gunn can do this well. And what by this, I mean he can do the ragtag group of villains / anti-heroes / misfits that all come together and they form a bond and they kind of, become a team, and then a couple of them die, and then, they all bond together at the very end to stop a big battle. He does that really well. I mean, Guardians of the Galaxy 1, Guardians of the Galaxy 2, Guardians of the Galaxy 3, the Suicide Squad, Peacemaker, he has done it 5 times, and make it 6, because Creature Commandos is basically, for better and or for worse, it is exactly what I thought it would be, and we'll get into that right about now. So let's do our usual dive into episode 1 and 2. I will do, I took some notes and we'll go through them. These are not long episodes. That's the first thing I noticed, is that these are almost sitcom length episodes, which I was a little surprised by, honestly, because, it's fine, because I think it's what James Gunn wants, and he's able to tell his stories in these 22 minutes or 23 minutes or however long they are, but still, I just think it's interesting that these aren't the 30, 40-minute shows that, the other, I guess, MCU or DCU shows are striving to be, although, the MCU also has 20-minute episodes for some reason, and anyways. So, here we go. Episode 1 starts out here, and this is it. This is the DCU beginning, and so, we start out here with this establishing shot, and I will say, in the trailers, the animation looked interesting. It looks stylized, and I said the same thing about the What If trailers way back when the first What If trailer came out. I was like, this is interesting. I actually kind of like the What If animation style. It feels very smooth and, very... It feels higher quality for some reason. And I will say that this approach to animation, not saying that the people who animated it, didn't try or anything like that. It's a choice, right? It's a choice to animate it this way, I think. And it just doesn't feel super, it feels very two-dimensional is what I will say. And the way that the characters are moving, it's very much more classic 2D animation than anything else. And it's a choice. I mean, it's not one that I particularly love, but I don't hate it either. It's just choice that you kind of have to get used to as we go along. We also get some background information here. So Cersei is going to be a character in this show, and she is an Amazon. So that's interesting. We're getting the setup for Themyscira, and it's interesting too because it seems like she is wanting to take over Themyscira, and from what James Gunn had said, Paradise Lost is going to be an HBO Max show that it's kind of a Game of Thrones on Themyscira, and I wonder if that's really what this show is going to be about. It's going to be about Cersei being the villain. We'll see, because I think that would be an interesting setup there for the one of the future DCU projects here. And so then we have now some backstory as Waller is doing the walk and talk with Rick Flag Sr., played by Frank Grillo, and he's going to be showing up a lot. I made a prediction that he's going to be one of the bigger antagonists moving forward of the DCU, maybe a protagonist even, but we'll see. And so she's explaining that Princess Ilana, I think Ilana, is the princess over this nation, which apparently has some oil reserves or something like that. Petroleum, I think, is what Waller said. And then they do basically the same thing. It's the same thing. The profiles, right? This is the Bride. This is Weasel. This is G.I. Robot. This is Dr. Phosphorus. This is Nina Mazursky. I'm not mad at it, right? I'm just so used to it at this point with these James Gunn projects, like, the walk and talk where Waller's like, this is Christopher Smith, and he does everything you do, and this is Ratcatcher 2, and I'm just kind of over it at this point. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I mean, again, James Gunn doesn't do it poorly at all, but I feel like this is the same thing we've been seeing over and over again. So anyways, there is that. There are also a lot of Peacemaker references here. So, Danielle Brooks's character Adebayo outing her mother, that was referenced, which is a direct, causal link to why they're using these creature commandos. Also, Rick Flag Jr. dying. It's a big plot point later. Ilana, sorry. He wanted to say Ileana, like the New Mutants, like magic. But anyways, so it's a big plot point here as Waller references it, and then I think Rick Flag Sr. talks about it later with Ilana. But yeah, Peacemaker references left and right here, and I don't know. It kind of helps lend to this idea that this feels more like a DCEU show than anything else, but we'll see about that. And this show in particular, by the way, just feels like Suicide Squad 2. Except this time it's with Rick Flag Sr. and with not with Rick Flag Jr. So, but it is basically Suicide Squad 2. And so Rick Flag Sr., they all go to this country, and then basically, this whole idea of, I guess this is a big thing going forward, is that Princess Ilana is in love with Rick Flag Sr. Now, whether or not there are ulterior motives, because that happened fast, who knows? Maybe there might be some ulterior motives to wanting to get close to him, and, he's resisting at first, but we'll see. We'll see what happens, because he, eventually falls into that temptation. And then, there's that also that scene, it's classic James Gunn. He does this a lot with his characters where Alexei, right, one of the guards, is just going on and on and on and on about these pop culture references, and I'm like, yeah, this is one of those James Gunn, just let the bit run out, as long as you can. And honestly, in this case, I was like, not a huge fan of it. I don't know. It works a little bit better in Peacemaker for some reason for me, but anyways, in this series, it just wasn't working that well. They again bring up Rick Flag Jr., Joel Kinnaman's character in the Suicide Squad, both Suicide Squad films, and it's a big weight on Rick Flag Sr. So I wonder if that's going to be a plot point that continues to carry on throughout the DCU from the DCEU. It's strange. But it is, it is what it is. And then basically Dr. Phosphorus and Rick Flag fight over that phone that shocks them. And it's, that's basically the first episode, because then at the end, the Bride and Nina Mazursky go to the place where the Bride was created by Victor Frankenstein. And after the first episode, I was just like, well, we're in wait and see mode. I wasn't particularly impressed by this first episode, but we're in wait and see mode. And honestly, as we get into the second episode, I had almost nothing to say, because things just kind of happen in this episode. I mean, it's the Frankenstein origin story, and honestly, there's just not a whole lot to talk about here. There's this really just creepy, weird relationship between Victor Frankenstein and the Bride, and then I guess it's kind of sad, the way that Eric Frankenstein views the Bride and how, he wants her to love him and all this kind of stuff, but she really doesn't. And I guess that's kind of sad, but, whatever. And then Cersei attacks them, and I don't think they're dead, Nina Mazursky and the Bride. If they are dead, I don't really care about them as characters, because we spent maybe 15 minutes of screen time with them total across 2 episodes. So yeah, there's that. And then the Rick Flag princess arc is continuing on, and Cersei's there, and that's really it. That's really all that happens in episode 2. And I'm so used to diving into details here in the spoiler discussions and talking about all these little things I noticed and how my thoughts changed as I was watching these episodes. These 2 episodes were so kind of alarmingly similar in the way that I was sitting there watching them going like, oh, I mean, yeah, it is exactly what I thought it would be. It is just James Gunn doing his James Gunn formula on Creature Commandos, and it's fine. I don't think there's anything in here where I was like, I just hate this show, but it's so fine, and it's just so it's just happening, you know. And I haven't really experienced that in a while, where I'm just sitting there going, I'm just taking in the show and saying it's going on. But I think that's sort of where we are with Creature Commandos. Am I excited to see episode 3? I don't know. Not particularly excited, but interested? Sure. I mean, I'm interested to see where this is going on. Honestly, though, at a certain point, even if the show doesn't really work for me, I mean, because again, I don't think I'm going to hate the show or anything like that. I just don't think at this point I'm going to love the show, but we'll see. We'll see. I at the very least, though, we can at least be looking at hints towards the DCU, which I think is something that I was already on, you know, the lookout for at the beginning. But I guess if nothing else, you know, there is that. So yeah, I mean, I really was not the biggest fan of these first 2 episodes. I thought that they were fine, and I just thought they were about what I expected. Just James Gunn doing James Gunn things. And we'll see where it goes from here, honestly, because I'd be curious to see if, you know, if this can kind of go the Peacemaker route, because Peacemaker, I think, was much better in terms of just grabbing you in the first couple episodes and making you care about these characters, this team. I don't have any attachment to this team at all right now, but we'll see. That might change very soon, just depending on where this series goes. Again, everything James Gunn has done, I've liked. So I don't doubt that, you know, there's going to be a lot to like in this series. I just don't know when that's going to happen. So we'll see about that. But guys, let me know what you thought about the first 2 episodes of Creature Commandos in the comments, and let me know what you're excited about. Looking forward to the DCU and looking forward to Creature Commandos continuing on. Let me know in the comments down below.